We are live. Welcome to Crypto Law TV. I'm John Deaton, the founder and your host. My guest needs no introduction. Some people call her Wendy O. Some people call her Crypto Wendy. I call her the queen bee of crypto. Let's bring Wendy.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, John. I'm excited that I get to be on your show for once.
I know you get to answer some questions too. Listen, you've been hot on this topic. I've been following your content. I recommend everybody to follow your content. I consider you one of the realest people in the game. Everyone out there, don't let the young face fool you. She's an OG in this game. And so let's talk a little bit about this SBF trial, because I know you've been following it. So why don't you tell us what your overall thoughts about it?
I felt that he got convicted super fast. Like, it was absolutely ridiculous how fast he got convicted as opposed to some other crypto founders that did similar crimes, in my opinion. I do think that it was a psyop. I think that it was planned, and I think it was something bigger than what a lot of us are being led to believe on mainstream media. And even like when I go to the nail salon, everything on mainstream media, it's all about FTX. It's all about Sam Bankman-Fried. Crypto is bad. Bitcoin is a scam. That's literally what I see. And this is on like regular cable television, regular television that people have access to. So I thought it was very interesting that that the trial was over so fast. And again, I'm not an attorney. I just like to read legal documents. But I have a question for you. Did you think that this was fast, that this trial happened super fast and he got convicted fast? Because I feel like other people that get in trouble, it lasts a lot longer.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, he was arrested a year of a felony, 7 felony counts to be done basically a year after he's arrested. It is faster than a lot. They gave it a priority. The deliberation, I think the deliberation was super fast. I went out and said, listen, Sam has to hope for a very lengthy jury deliberation so that there's 1 or 2 jurors up there thinking that maybe he didn't have the fraudulent intent. The fact that they came out, in less than 5 hours with a guilty verdict was basically them saying we've wasted enough of our lives with this guy and listening to this nonsense and this crap. So that didn't surprise me. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people, when they talked about this, there was a lot of speculation that Sam was a plant, if you will, and that he was placed there. And my whole thing about that was that it's very difficult to imagine someone risking decades in prison to cooperate with the government or to cooperate with the administration, because there was a lot of theories that Sam was a psyop placed into us to blow up crypto. And I didn't know if that's what you're referring to or referring to something else.
Well, kind of, sort of. And this is my thought process. Like, if you look at the history of his mom and the history of his dad, I mean, I started doing a little bit of digging just on his father alone. And the fact that he was a Stanford professor and he was, he's not only an attorney, but he knows a lot about taxes. And I believe he wrote a paper about how, or he had a degree in psychology, but he wrote a paper or something along the lines of how the mental psyche impacts tax fraud. Different things like that. And it's just very interesting that both his parents were on payroll. And I feel that again, and I'm not saying that he's not a bad guy. I think that what he did was 100% wrong. It was illegal. It was immoral. You don't want to steal anything from anybody. He literally stole he rugged everybody. He stole customer funds. But my whole thing is, if you read his proposed crypto rules that FTX wants to kind of put out there, I really feel like his parents thought that they had it in with the elites and they were getting ready to elevate themselves into that next that next social class. And they were doing a lot of these things and they were taking leads from people and they just got played. And I feel like the way that they got played is the public servants and a lot of these elites, they really wanted to do, they don't like crypto. They don't like Bitcoin, but it's very hard to stop. And we've seen this with the predatory actions of Gary Gensler and the SEC and a lot of other public servants. And I really think that his parents got played and their son took the fall for it because they thought that they were going to use him to get to a certain place in the world, and it ended up not happening. So that was kind of my thought process on it. But again, like, where is Sam Trabocco? Like, where's Dan Freeberg? Where are a lot of these other people that were kind of implicated in this? Where are the attorneys that signed off on this? Where was his dad? Why is his dad not being investigated? His dad is very well versed in a lot of this knowledge and legal stuff and in taxing and CP, like money. If his dad was on payroll, how did his dad not step in and say, son, what are you doing here? What's going on here?
Well, I think it's because you've answered it. He's complicit. Let's bring up that organizational chart that I'm pretty sure Daddy had a lot to do with, Wendy. Look at it. Now, listen, I have a few like LLCs that I own, real estate, my law firm, whatnot, but I can't imagine needing this level of dozens and dozens of shell companies, which clearly is to avoid taxes. You brought up taxes. Thanks for the chart. His father, just so you know, when you say connected, his father not only taught us at Stanford, but was the architect of Elizabeth Warren's tax plan when she ran for president. And his mom runs a political action committee or PAC, if you will. And so, listen, here's the question. I believe, and I'll ask you what you believe. I believe that Sam, when you look at the federal guidelines, the fact that he took the stand, and it wouldn't have been held against him if he didn't, but he took the stand. He lied through his teeth. He literally, his lawyers in closing got up and said, oh, he's being picked on because of his hairstyle or his nerdiness. And I'm sitting there saying, oh my God, like, what are these attorneys doing? Because that's going to play out with this judge. I believe the judge is going to hammer him with a very multiple decades in prison. What's your take on the verdict? Are you suspicious that it's not going to be big?
No, I think that, I think I'm glad that they convicted him. I'm glad that he's going to be doing a little bit of time. And we could kind of talk about that. That's a whole another topic on people actually serving jail time and what that looks like. Because again, it's taxpayer dollars that are going to fund this. Like, this man has already taken enough from people. But I do think he's going to do a significant amount of time because they do want to make an example out of him because he is a part of the crypto industry. But I think he's probably going to get put in protective custody. I feel like a lot of prison politics are going to come into play. His parents have money. He comes from a well-versed family. They're not going to put him in general pop. He's going to have access probably to a cell phone, possibly to internet, with a computer and a TV. He's going to have a lot of different luxuries that we get to have outside, but he's just going to be in an ugly place.
Yeah. And as far as you asked the important question, to me, the most important question is what you brought up, which is where are the others that were complicit? His dad was on payroll. His dad demanded a higher salary because I guess
yeah, 200,000 was not good enough. So they had to boost it up to $1 million per year, I believe.
Right. $1 million per year. Now, to me, that a guy like his father who's that experienced, you know what that says to me? That says to me, Wendy, like, hey, I know I'm committing fraud, and 200 grand is not enough for me to commit fraud and risk prison. So you got to pay me a lot more than that. That's how I interpret it as a lawyer. I don't know how you took it, but it reminds me of the Epstein situation. Like, where's the book? Where are the people who flew to that island and took advantage of young girls? Are we just going to forget about it? Are we going to just put Sam in prison and hope everybody forgets about it? And so,
of course, we're going to forget about it. And the reason being is they paint the way, like, it's just very interesting the way he's being portrayed, like on mainstream media. Also, it's like they want people to feel sorry for him, but then people are mad at what he did. But then crypto's a scam and Bitcoin is a scam. It's this big whole like production that we're seeing happen. But realistically, like we talked about, we're the public servants. Like, his dad, I want to say, helped Elizabeth Warren manage a campaign, or he did some consulting for her, I want to say back in 2016. So he has a lot of ties. And there was also the notion that, that Sam and Gary Gensler over at MIT together. And again, his family was super well versed and super connected with a particular party. And again, for those people that are very gung-ho on blue versus red, it's really not about that, because there was political contributions that were given to both sides. However, there was one side that received a lot more, and that particular side is very, very anti-crypto. And like Hotep Jesus and I, we have a podcast, and you should pop in one day. But every Monday between 1 to 3 p.m., we're actually going to do it on tomorrow, 1 to 3 p.m. We kind of talk about this ideology that gets pressed, that gets pushed through about financial inclusion. That's how that's a term that they're going to use to really push through the CBDC. And I feel like again, and I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. I like to kind of think outside the box at times, but I really feel like a lot of this was done. Like the people, the powers that be, kind of played him and played his, not him because he was just an a-hole, but his parents, and made them think, okay, you guys are going to do this. FTX is going to be like the one-stop shop for crypto and CBDC, and we're going to have complete control. And then they purposely kind of, allowed it to get so big and fall out of control. Because let's face it, like the fact that he was meeting with Gary Gensler, and the fact that he was meeting with a lot of these public servants, and they were allowing him to do all these things, and they were accepting all of this money, that's another big red flag for me, just as a human being. Because how could you be so connected with all of these people? Nobody's calling you out, especially like Gary Gensler, commissioner of the SEC. Like, how did Gary not do a little bit of due diligence or digging? And then also, too, the attorneys on his team, why didn't they report this to, like, I don't know who you guys are supposed to report something to if you can't service a client or there's something weird that's happening. But like, no one said anything. There were so many professional people that have fiduciary, like they have people that they're supposed to report to if there's something wrong happening. Like, this was a serious case of fraud. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. Now, you're someone you talk to a lot of people in crypto. You talk to a lot of people outside of crypto. I guess the real question now is, obviously the anti-crypto people out there are going to turn Sam and FTX into the shining example of crypto's criminality and illicit purposes. You and I know that case had nothing to do with crypto. It was just a fraud. It was stealing. In fact, I don't even think Sam really ever believed in the technology or the ecosystem. I don't think he even really was moved by Bitcoin, and what I mean by that is that, when I came across Bitcoin, I immediately thought of my mom. She didn't have a bank account until she was in her 40s because of welfare and food stamps. Mm-hmm. The only time she got a bank account was when the government insisted on going on a direct deposit system. So she would get her check in the mail, go to the check cashing place that charged 10 or 15%. Because she couldn't do the minimum. So when I know it sounds corny, but when I found Bitcoin and started going into this, I really did think about that kind of people, someone who could engage and participate in capitalism. You could be a woman in Nigeria and make straw hats and have a smartphone, create a website, and all of a sudden you can engage in commerce without a bank. I don't think Sam believed in any of that. And so it's sad to me that he's going to be a reason why they get a lot of mileage out of the anti-crypto agenda.
I think he's just one excuse, though. I think he's just one. It was an easy example to make, and that's why I think that a lot of this is a psyop. And I feel like there's powers that be, that people and entities that are a lot more powerful than him and his parents, that kind of were just watching this unfold, and they're like, this kid's an idiot. These people are stupid. They're going to let him happen because they're greedy and they're dumb. And that's exactly what happened. And they kind of allowed all of this to continue. They allowed all of this to unravel, to really push the narrative that crypto is bad, that we need to introduce a CBDC. I really think that that's what all of this is about at the end of the day. And again, I could be wrong, but it's the way that I'm watching things play out. It's just kind of my opinion, because we haven't seen any really type of positive. We haven't even seen any type of guidelines from Gary Gensler, number one. We still see the SEC and the CFTC kind of going back. Is Bitcoin a commodity? Is it a security? Or on all these other crypto assets? And we're not seeing even after this entire thing that happened, the crypto contagion, all the exchanges collapsing, and we're not seeing any type of guidelines being given to us from any of these entities. It's more so just negative. Like, this is bad. This is immoral. This is illegal. This is, facilitates. We just saw Elizabeth Warren come out and say that crypto facilitates bad transactions for bad people with the particular conflict that we see going on. And us in crypto, we know that, yes, there's bad actors in every industry. Yes, there could have been some illicit activity that happened, but at the end of the day, this happens in every single industry. You're never going to completely remove bad behavior from humans, because that's part of human nature. And again, I just really feel like it's being done to really, truly oppress the American people.
I want to get your take on this. I believe what we've been experiencing, including the bear market, extensive bear market, is we've been seeing a purge of some of the bad guys, right? So obviously we've been talking about Sam. You got the Celsius, Alex Machinsky. You got Do Kwon. You've got maybe digital current, the DCG and Genesis. Who knows what's going? it looks like people may be getting indicted down that road as well. And I think that unfortunately we haven't had a regulator who focused on fraud. I believe if you and I would be cheerleading the SEC had they focused on the bad guys and focused on protecting the retail and left the libraries of the world alone, who are actually trying to improve technology. But are you optimistic as we move forward, or do you
No.
think we still have a lot of pain to go through?
I mean, again, they're picking and choosing who to go after and when to go after it. The SEC loves to pick kind of like low hanging fruit. Like after somebody already does something bad, then they'll go after them. And I feel like it's very lazy behavior. These people are getting a salary from our taxpayer dollars. And this is why I get so infuriated from this, is because I've worked so hard in my life to do the right thing and to, pay my taxes. I always advocate to my audience, pay your crypto taxes. It sucks, but pay your crypto taxes. Like, we always talk about grifting ethically, like invest in whatever you want, do whatever it is you want to do, disclose, pay your crypto taxes, just grift, find the tax loopholes, do what the elites are doing. But I really think that a lot of the really, really, really bad actors, they're still out there. And a lot of them kind of masquerade kind of anonymously in some fashions, but I feel like there still is a lot of bad actors that are out there. We're never going to like this ideology that we need to remove all the bad actors from crypto. You're never going to remove all of the bad actors. That's not the way the world works. If you take a step back and you look at the traditional banking system, the fact that JP Morgan only had to pay $75 million for facilitating transactions for Epstein is kind of telling. The fact that this happened so long ago, and they're only paying 75 million, I think that they manage like I want to say 950 billion, I believe. I don't have the number on the top of my head, but the fact that they're only given a slap on the wrist for that means that they're still facilitating these types of really bad transactions, and the American public allows it to happen because that's the social norm with our public servants, and whoever's getting is the highest bidder will continue to allow this stuff to happen. So I don't need any type of regulation. I don't need anybody to protect me. I've never really had good experience with law enforcement. Anytime I've needed help, I've never been provided with any type of relief or services, etc. So I'm okay with it. Like, I can operate in the wild, wild west. I've done it my whole life. However, there are a lot of people that do need a little bit more guidance, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. And I also understand when you're dealing with people in power, you're dealing with another person's ego, compromise is going to be key. So I'm all for some sort of guidance on what projects can and can't do. But I also love Hester Peirce's Safe Harbor 2.0, where it basically allowed projects to create and to do things. And they had like 3 years, I believe, to showcase that they actually had utility and a working product and those types of things. Like, I'm okay with guidelines. I'm okay with protecting retailers, but I also want to see an environment where companies and entrepreneurs and non-corporate capitalism is able to thrive, so builders can build and they don't have to be build out of fear. And I believe I want to say Gary Gensler, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Gary Gensler came out and said that if a crypto project hires an attorney, then that's a red flag. Was that what he said?
Pretty much, yes. And many took it as a form of intimidation. Basically, we're not done going after you guys. And that's just the most insane thing. Every time you think Gary Gensler can't go lower, and you're like, I've seen it all, he somehow does it. And the last time before that, I was like, okay, he's hit rock bottom. You can never go lower than that. And then he goes and says, oh, if you hire an attorney, you're some shady guy or some shady operation.
Well, I guess I'm shady because I've got a really extensive legal team. I ask them questions. And when I do talk to projects, one of the things that we look for is like, do you have a legal team? Like, are you consulting with somebody who's well-versed in the space and understands what's happening? And I think that it's absolutely insane that people are trying to do the right thing, because you retain an attorney for one of two reasons. One, you're in trouble, or two, you're trying to do something, but you also want to operate in the constraints of the law, and you want to know what you can and can't do. Because again, I think, and I always encourage my audience to grift within the constraints of the law, grift within the tax loopholes, do what all of the elites are doing. But at the same time, make sure to make as much money as ethically as possible. The laws were created for a reason. If these other people can like grift alongside them, the masses should be able to also. And so it's just upsetting that really people in America are trying to do the right thing. They're trying to thrive in tech, and they just can't do it. It's next to impossible because nobody knows what you can and can't do. And the fact that if you're trying to do the right thing and you're getting hit for doing the right thing, what's the point? What is the point?
Right. For those that may going to ask a few questions, we'll take at the end. Go to the Crypto Law YouTube live stream. That's where you put your questions in to get the best chance of getting it answered by me or Wendy. Now, we're going to do a little left turn because it's something I didn't tell you we talk about, but you said something very interesting, which was pay your taxes. And one of the things that I think that you're great at, Wendy, sincerely, is educating people. When you say pay your taxes, that means take profits. And I think as we get into maybe another bull cycle, listen, I wish I was paying more attention to that, because I'm one of those people, who has that difficult, that, selling is the most difficult choice, right? Buying is easy. We can buy and justify it anytime. Selling, the greed steps in. You don't want to like miss out on the continued run, or you don't want to admit that you should sell because you picked a loser or for the time period or whatnot. And so, I just wanted to recommend people to follow you for that. And so why do you think it's important, so important, in your own words, as someone who is more actively, I think, a trader than myself?
So I think it's important to have, I always tell my audience, my financial situation is different than yours. So you're here in crypto. Most people are here in crypto to improve the quality of life for them and their families. What does that mean? Well, you're taking some of your money, you're taking some of your disposable income, you've done your due diligence, and you want to increase the amount of money, disposable income you have, whether to buy a house or to go to school or buy something for your parents, whatever it is. So I always say, create a trading and investing journal. I don't see anything wrong with that. And when you're invested in something, always consider taking profits. We do the moon bag strategy on the channel. So it's basically you've done your due diligence, you've used disposable income, number goes up, and you have areas where you're going to start pulling profits. And when you have a moon bag, that basically means you've pulled out profits, you've removed initial investment, you have enough reserve for taxes because you're going to have to report that stuff. And whatever you have left is called a moon bag. You own that free and clear. It's like going to it's like going to Vegas. I'm going to play a little bit, and it's just house money. And you got your initial investment back. And I think that that's super important, because a lot of times people get so attached and they get super excited, but they don't realize the risk that they hold. Because if you're putting disposable income into something and you're not actively taking profit, and that thing ends up going to zero, then you've just lost some disposable income. And what's the point of investing?
Right. Listen, I want to segue and get away from SBF, because and it's a great segue what we're talking about, because let me ask you, I don't know if it was a year ago or 2 years ago when Gary Gensler did his infamous video where he brought justice by making Kim Kardashian pay some money, some fine, because she had tweeted out something about a crypto project. And so my question to you is, what was your take on that when you saw that? Did that surprise you? Did it concern you as someone who's out there?
I was actually I thought that it was insane, because she disclosed that she was paid. She did #ad. And I think that disclosure is super important. Like anytime we take on a client, or we're invested in something, or consulting for somebody, or even if I have a moon bag and it's some crazy mean project, or even when I talk about Bitcoin, I was like, hey guys, I got a bag of Bitcoin. The fact that she disclosed it, I don't think that that was an issue. Like, I think that people are intelligent enough to make choices and to do what they want to do with their money, especially given the information that she was paid. It was very obvious. So the fact that he went after her for that, I can understand that, but at the same time, we don't have any type of framework indicating what is a security and what isn't a security. We don't have we're not being told what we can and can't do. It's just kind of, we're out here and we're trying to function, and we're trying to figure out what the landscape looks like. So I thought it was actually ridiculous. I thought it was a waste of taxpayers' time and money, and I don't think it did anything productive for protecting retail investors, because we still don't have clarity what crypto assets are a security or not. Of course, with the Ripple ruling and XRP not being a security on the secondary market, that's amazing. That's probably the best news that I've heard all year, because it gives some sort of case law that people can actually go back to and say, hey, this is what happened. We're doing the same thing, so we're not a security. But it's still not law yet. It's just, it was a decision that was given, and it's not set in stone. So I feel like it was just kind of a waste of time, because what change did that bring?
No, listen, when that came out, I probably got 5 or 6 calls where people who said, John, I have a YouTube channel and I have a sponsor. And the first thing I said is, do you disclose it? And they're like, yeah, I always disclose that it's sponsored. I go, then there's nothing wrong with that. Like, as long as you say, hey, this company that I'm doing a little ad for is a sponsor, I receive some level of compensation, or they sponsor my YouTube channel, whatever. I go, this idea that we have to be protected, that people need to be protected from themselves, that's a fundamental issue that I have. that encourages a nanny state where you have unelected bureaucrats like Gary Gensler who are going to dictate, what you can and cannot put your hard-earned money into, or what I can. Obviously, people should be protected from intentional fraud. But
Yes.
aside from that, people should be allowed to make free choice and have freedom to invest in what they want. And people who are influencers, as long as they're disclosing and doing the right thing, let them make the money. Like that's what we're here for, right? To provide for our family, to try to get a
Well,
piece.
also too, John, that's like, let's say you take an ad for Doritos, for example. Like Doritos, if you're watching this, please sponsor me. Taco Bell, please sponsor me. Would love to work with you. Doritos has like red dye in it. There's a lot of toxins in it. There's things that are not healthy for your body. If you eat Doritos every day, it's probably going to cause health issues down the line. With that being said, is the current spokesperson for Doritos going to get sued for promoting that? Probably not. And again, I understand it's money, it's invested, it's kind of a different class, but that's one of the things that comes to mind is that you're still like you can still cause harm with different things, but also too, like I don't like people telling me what to do. I don't think people should police and tell other people what to do. Because when we get into that, can become very dangerous into it just becomes it becomes very dangerous and it becomes scary. Like I feel that it transcends to you know public servants coming to our homes telling us what we can and can't do with our kids, how we educate them, what type of content we allow them to consume, what type of content we're allowed to consume. And I think that people have I like to give the benefit of the doubt to people, and that people are good and that they have good intentions. And I also like to promote critical thinking and doing your own due diligence. I don't like following anybody blindly for anything. I've learned that the hard way since I was young, just blindly believing. But at the same time, it's like I get there needs to be something. There needs to be some sort of law and order, but it shouldn't be to where it's infringing on people's right to do what they want to do with their money.
No, absolutely. All right, we got like 3 to 4 minutes left. Let's see if we have a few questions that have come out. Let's see. So, Wendy, do you think
Ooh.
it's possible SBF would receive a presidential pardon? What's your thoughts?
Nope, no way, any way, shape, or form. Because if he does give a presidential pardon, then that would show some sort of leniency with this current administration towards crypto, and they're not going to do that. The only way that could possibly happen is if Biden has to really appeal to the crypto community to win the vote, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, I could never see Biden going out on a limb, or anyone going out on a limb. What we haven't heard yet is when we get to sentencing, there's going to be victim impact testimony. And so you're going to learn about how a grandmother put her $200,000 life savings on FTX, or someone who was even an employee and moved over and put all of their assets on FTX and got fraud by Sam and believed in Sam, lost everything. You're going to hear that. And that's why I think the sentence is going to be harsh. But no, let's go to the next one. Next question. What do you think the SEC plan is for crypto in 2024, Wendy?
I think we have to wait to a new president to get some sort of change. And then from there, I feel like we'll probably see regulation 2025-ish. What do you think?
No, we're not going to see, in order for us to see regulation, we have to get a bill through the House, through the Senate, and signed by the president. We are going into an election year. That's never going to happen. You're never going to get an election. It's already as combative and divisive as it can be, but there's no way that's going to happen. And it might not even happen in 2025 if we still have a very divided government.
Correct.
If one party, let's say the Republicans, are able to take over and a presidential candidate wins the presidency and they have the Senate or the House, then I think we're going to see certainly stablecoin. We'll see some type of regulation, but short of that, no. And I think best case scenario, the end of 2025 is the best case scenario for me.
Fair enough.
Next question. We'll do 2 more. All right. What's your prediction on sentence length? I think this is the last one because we're out of time.
What did they say? Like 115 years?
Yes, he has a max of 115 years. So what's your prediction?
I don't know enough about this. And either way, again, you guys, I really think prison politics are going to take over. His parents have money. They're going to be able to put that on his books. He can pay people off. I knew a guy that was in solitary confinement that had access to a TV because he was an important person.
Well, let me flip it this way, Wendy. Would you be disappointed if it's less than a certain period of time? Just as someone who is a part of this ecosystem, and I think that believes in the positives that it can offer.
Well, I will say, I personally, what benefit is it going to be to have him incarcerated his entire life? I would like to look at the benefit of it. I would personally rather see him get like, um, have him get an X, maybe like 50 years, and then when he gets out, he's not allowed to do X, Y, and Z. I feel like making people's personal life a living hell when they for doing terrible things like this would be a lot more impactful than letting them sit in jail. But again, each person has a different preference on this.
Right. Well, for me, he's got 7 felony counts. If the judge were to give 5 years each, that puts you at 35 years. I think it's going to be more than that. So I'm going to pick 55 if I have to pick a number, and we'll see. And so with that, listen, we're out of time. Wendy, everybody follow Wendy. She keeps it real. She's one of my favorite people in the industry. Look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon, Wendy. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you. See you next week.